excited about doing everything we can now to really have a better record than we had last year, better team than we had last year. That's why we've been doing what we've been doing with the coaching staff. But to answer your question specifically, I would bet that we will spend more money in free agency than we have.
I would bet. Well, if he's a betting man, he's going to lose
Mm.
some money because let's look at what they actually did in free agency. I'm going to pull up their contracts that they signed just so we can see it on the screen and talk through them because I'm sorry, Skip. I already know you're about to go off. I'm going to give you that opportunity. But right now we have safety Jalen Thompson. Then we've got Kobe Durant, cornerback. We've got Sam Williams. We got Otito Ogbonia. We got PJ Locke and Sam Howell. These are 1 year deals, 1 year deal, only one 3 year deal. So, I mean, ink to paper, he really didn't go out and spend the money he was talking about. And Dallas traded Osa to the Niners for a third round pick. So, Skip, give Jerry a letter grade for free agency. I know you're going to go off.
I give Jerry Jones a D minus for free agency, and that's D as in dumb, as in damn, as in what the hell are you doing or not doing, Jerry Jones? Because he also said in that same interview we just saw, he was going to bust the budget. And when he said that, I dared Jerry Jones to do any one of these four moves in order. I said, I dare you, Jerry. I said it here on this show. Go sign Trey Hendrickson, or go sign Devin Lloyd, or go sign Reek Woolen. Went to the Eagles, unfortunately. Or go get Nakobe Dean, Jerry Jones. Go get any one of those four, and I'll be a little to a lot happy. And he obviously went 0-for-4. And I dare Jerry, because I don't trust my guy George Pickens with the franchise tag hanging over his head next year. I said, offer George Pickens for Maxx Crosby and see if they'll do that deal. And you can go, Jerry, sign Romeo Doubs, who got a chunk of money to go to New England. He'll be very good in New England. I think he would have been very good in Dallas. Nope, nope, and nope. And allegedly, reportedly, because Dallas leaks all this stuff, the Cowboys came in a close second on Trey Hendrickson and a close second on Max. Baloney. It's just a bunch of phony baloney spewed by Jerry and Stephen Jones to try to convince Cowboy Nation that they actually tried to spend some money when they did not. So all I know is that we went from high motor Maxx Crosby to very low motor Rashawn Gary. We gave a fourth round pick for a classic underachiever who was about to get cut by the Packers. We gave a fourth for him when we could have given a fifth or a sixth and gotten him because he makes $20 million. So he'll make $20 million in Dallas. I know he restructured it a bit, but we're going to have to pay that piper at some point. So he's going to make $20 million in Dallas to disappear, because ask anybody who watched him closely at Michigan. I did. Ask any of those Packer fans who watched, who lived and died with him in Green Bay. He will disappear when you need him the most. So then Jerry goes out and made one free agent move. He signed a decent, versatile safety in Jalen Thompson for $11 million a year. Jalen Thompson is ranked 52nd on the free agent list by ESPN.com and has never sniffed a Pro Bowl. So is he going to be a difference maker, a game changer, a life changer? No, he's not. And then we signed your backup safety from Denver, PJ Locke, who is no TJ Ward. I'll say that for a fact. He's a special teams player, but he's just a backup safety. And then everybody else was backup. And then the shocker of the day was we traded Osa Odighizuwa, who I always liked. He's making $20 million. You got a third for him to the 49ers when I thought he would command a second, because he's a really good football player. And we lost some depth and some versatility in the interior defensive line. And then we just gave away Solomon Thomas because Saleh loves him, and he's obviously the new head coach in Tennessee. And we just gave him away for a little 7th-round pick swap when I thought he would have been valuable. So, look, here's the point. Jerry blew a bunch of smoke up in Indianapolis, and then he, as usual, blew it in free agency. And he didn't bust the budget in free agency. He just busted in free agency. So here, I said 6-11 next year. Nothing changed. I'm sitting on 6-11 for the Dallas Cowboys next year.
Yeah, you're looking at it all wrong, Skip.
Yeah,
I think
6-11.
you're just looking at the dollar amount that he spent. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I think you're looking at. And then if you're looking at that, you gotta count that franchise tag as money well spent. You know what I'm saying? So I see the Cowboys filling holes needed on defense, man. They go out and sign 2 legit safeties. You said it, Jalen Thompson, PJ Locke. He wasn't a starter, but he started about 8 games, 7-8 games for the Broncos last year, meaningful big games, and came in and balled his ass off. Made big plays in the playoffs. Made big plays down the stretch in big games.
Why didn't you keep him?
Because we got a starter already. That's it. We already had a starter. That's how you become a starter. You come in and make some plays, and now people look at you, oh, you're starting safety in the league. So I think they got 2 guys capable of starting who they signed. They also still got Malik Hooker. Them guys could battle it out to see who the starter is. You got depth at safety. They needed depth at safety. They got it. They signed Kobe Durant. You pair him with Bland. You got a number 1 and number 2 corner. Jalen Thompson and Kobe Durant, either one of them guys, one of those guys is going to win that nickel spot. One of those guys is going to be your nickel back. You still got Siobhan Revel. That's 3 solid corners you got right there. Battle it out to see who the starter is. You got depth at safety. Safety, they got it. They signed Kobe Durant. We got going. We got you got 3 solid we got 3 solid corners now, you know what I'm saying, on your depth chart. You need that. And you got a solid nickel back. You need that. Man, they signed Otito Agbania, a great run stopping interior guy. You know what I'm saying? This guy's a monster inside, a load inside. He's a run stopping guy. You look at, man, I go off PFF, he got a great run stopping grade. You know what I'm saying? So hey, and then you trade Osa, you get a 3 back from the 4 you lost, but they just didn't need Osa, Kenny Clark, and Quentin. They didn't need all that money on the books. So I thought that was a smart play. Get him off the books, get a draft pick from him, bring in a guy who could play that run. I get my pass rush from Quentin Williams inside. That's my pass rushing guy. You bring in Rashawn Gary, he a great run stopping edge, and he gonna give you 7.5 sacks off the edge. You know what I'm saying? Wow. So I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take 7.5 sacks from my second leading pass rusher. You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, they bring back Sam Williams. You raved about Sam Williams last year. You loved him.
I like him.
Remember you saying you loved him. They bring him back on a prove a year. And on top of that, they got Donovan, how you say his name?
Ezra-Waka. Yeah.
Ezra-Waka. Look, so now I got 3 solid older edges. I'm saying not older, but 3 solid edges who've been in the NFL. I like that. I got
real quick. All those guys you just mentioned played for the worst defense in the National Football League last year and the worst in the history of the Dallas Cowboy franchise.
Not all of them. No, not. I mean, Kenny Clark and Quentin Williams came in late.
Yeah.
Gary ain't played for them. Otito ain't played for them.
Sam Williams and Ezra-Waka played for them, and that happened.
Them are role guys.
They also played in a completely different scheme last year too, because now they bring Christian Parker.
They might rotate with each other, Skip. They going battle it out and rotate with each other, or they might draft a starter with this number 12 pick, and those 2 guys be both backups on each side. You know what I'm saying? So I think they're doing a great job, man. You need another linebacker. You need maybe a starting edge. You need a cornerback. You got the 12th pick and the 20 pick. Man, they not getting super big names, but they slowly but surely filling holes. They slowly but surely filling holes that they need, man. They need an interior linebacker. They need an edge. They need a cornerback. They got the 12th pick and the 20 pick to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Lee. This is not a 1-year play, Skip. This is a 2-year play. So not only do they still got $20 million in cap space, but they slowly but surely filling these holes with proven veterans for a cheap price. You don't always have to go out and get the one banger to make it you know, a solidified offseason or free agency, man. We just gonna slowly with quality starters, right? Maybe not Pro Bowlers, but all these guys we bringing in are quality starters. Rashawn Gary, Jalen Thompson, PJ Locke. You keep your physicality and versatility with PJ Locke. You know, like Lee said, he came in, made big plays in the box for the Broncos and on the back end for the Broncos with a big interception in the playoff game against your Buffalo Bills, the ones you like, right? So big plays and big games. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for guys that can play in the playoffs and make big plays in big games. Then you bring, you know, Rashawn Gary in, who you want to be stout up front. And I think this is what Dallas is doing. It's not all about finesse and getting right to the quarterback. It's being stout, stopping offenses on first and second down so we can get to third and long, and then we let the dogs go. But the draft picks, man, it goes back to what great teams do, is building their teams 2 to 3 years through the draft. Now, even if they brought in the highest paid free agency, would you say they would win the Super Bowl this year? No, this is a 2-year play. You get the third round picks. You retain your running back, Javonte Williams. You tender your kicker. So somebody want to come take him. Then you get another second round pick for him. So now we got all these draft picks to really get guys that, you know, are highly touted from college. And then the ones that aren't highly touted, we have the ability to let them learn and grow in our defense and our offense. And it's cheap as hell. It's cheap as hell. It's going out and spending as little as you can to be as productive as you can. That's why the Seahawks won the Super Bowl and still have all this money to spend, because they did it the right way. And I think Jerry Jones seen that, like, hey, we bring a quarterback in, we grow slowly in the next 2 years, we too could be in the Super Bowl winning position. So I really love what they're doing. I gave Jerry a B+ in free agency. I think he's doing an excellent job right now.
PJ, before Cody goes, I just want to remind you, you're saying they're rebuilding slowly but surely.
It's not a rebuild. It's a replacement. I wouldn't call it a rebuild because your offense is in place. You got all the dogs you need on offense. You're not bringing in rookies, you know, in these positions. You bring in, like I said, proven guys. Pro Bowlers, maybe not, but they're proven to be playmakers and play very well. And then the guys you do bring in the draft, first, second, third rounder, these are the guys that are going to make an immediate impact. So they learn the system for 1 or 2 years, and you find yourself in the Super Bowl. And you don't have to give them the second contract money. They all living off that first contract. It's the NFL right now is to go as far as you can with your best players on their first contract, so you don't have to pay them until your second contract. If you want to keep them, you retain them. If not, you let them go, and you do that same shit over and over again.
Yeah, I just remind you that Jerry Jones is 83, and he says he's going to win multiple Super Bowls before he expires. So he better get busy.
Expire. Jerry expires.
Oh, yeah. What else do you want him to say? You want him to say there's no hope? You gotta talk big.
Man, before you go, Cody, my grade, I give him a nice B. I give him a solid B. I think at the end of the day, when the draft is over, we're gonna look at that projected starting lineup for offense and defense, and we're gonna be real happy with it. You're gonna be happy with it too, Skip.
I love that sign.
Yeah, Akib, I wish I'd had you as my professor at Vanderbilt with that solid, nice B.
You would have wanted me too, because I also gave him a B.
Oh, great.
Right. We know that though, Cody.
Cody, we know you gotta be on the books.
Yeah. That's as low
I've never seen you give a C.
As low as I go. Maybe if you got a C+, you're failing. But I think what's important in this situation, Skip, is if last year the Cowboys had a middle of the pack defense, then maybe going out and breaking the bank for one player could have got them over the hump. But the reality is they had one of the worst defensive years statistically in franchise history. So they had multiple gaps that they had to fill. They had to address the secondary. They had to address the safety position, the corner position. They had to address the front seven. They had to add more pieces so that they could see improvement up front with their defense instead of just getting a guy like Maxx Crosby, which I'm sure a lot of Cowboys fans would have wanted, but then you can't address other positional needs. And on top of that, you have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. You can go out and get 2 very good players on defense in this draft and then build throughout the rest of the draft and hopefully in the future as well. But I look at it like this overall. Offensively, they had one of the best offenses in the NFL last year, so they didn't really need to add much to it. They were just more focused on retention. They had to retain their key players. They did just that. They signed Javonte Williams to a 3-year deal, who I love, who I think makes life a lot easier for Dak Prescott when he can turn around and give it to Williams for 4 or 5 yards a pop. They also franchise tagged George Pickens. Now, obviously, they would love to get a long-term deal done with him, but right now, at least they have control over his future. And if a team wants to come get him, then they got to spend 2 first-round picks to do so, which I think is also very important. And then they also restructured Terrence Steele, who's an offensive lineman. I think was another good move that they made. I know he's not a high-end guy, but at the same time, they opened up more cap space, which they needed to do. So offensively, they're set. They're good to go. Defensively, like I said, they didn't make any huge franchise-altering moves, but I really do like Rashawn Gary for a 4th-round draft pick. The reason I like it is because, A, he's going to be consistent. I know he's not a double-digit sack guy, but he'll give you 7 to 9 sacks a year consistently, give you some production off the edge. But I do think the way that they reworked his contract was important because that opened up $14 million in 2026 for cap space. If they do want to make some more moves, I actually really do like, too, the Jalen Thompson signing at safety. I know, Skip, you're not very high on him, but he can do multiple things in the back end. You can move him in different spots. And Keith said it. He can play nickel as well. He can cover a tight end in the slot or cover a slot receiver. He had just under 100 tackles each of the last 2 seasons. So the productivity is there for Jalen Thompson. And then we talked about the trade of Oso Odighizuwa. I know they signed him to a 4-year deal just last season, so that was a bit of a shock. They also got rid of Solomon Thomas. But when you bring in a guy like Quinnen Williams and you bring in a guy like Kenny Clark, there's a reason to move on from Odighizuwa, get a 3rd-round pick back for him, maybe get another guy in the draft that can help build this defense. So, yeah, I give him a B, Skip. I think you have to look at it in totality. You can't just look at, okay, did they make a big move? What money did they spend? Are they addressing positional needs that they need to address? And I think they've done that.
Okay, so here's the bottom line about my man, Jerry Jones. He just builds through the draft. He'll blow a lot of smoke ahead of free agency, but it's just smoke and mirrors. But Jerry wants to build through the draft because it's his calling card and it appeals to and feeds his football ego, because Jerry has final say on all the top draft picks, 1st, 2nd round. And Jerry, when they hit, as they did for about a decade, they had a high success rate. He can go brag to his buddies at lunch or dinner about, yeah, I knew he could play, and I pulled the trigger on him. And it's all about Jerry's ego. But what people aren't talking about is that in 2023, Jerry pulled the trigger on Mozzie Smith, and it was a complete swing and miss. And in 2024, I said it on draft night because I know his game. I'm afraid that Tyler Guyton, their left tackle, is going to turn into a bust because he's struggled and struggled and struggled. He's lost his job repeatedly. I just don't trust it. I don't think they have the left tackle of the future. And if you keep missing on your 1st-round picks like those two, you got trouble, man. And for, as long as you were hitting, they'll be fine. But I'm just not sure Jerry isn't losing some of his fastball on his draft picks.
Man,
Skip, who do you want in this year's draft?
You're not going to bat 1,000, though, Skip. You're going to have some.
I could go down the list and tell you stars on a team who 1st-round draft picks. Yeah. And he's doing something in free agency and trades, too, because George Pickens ain't a draft pick. Javonte Williams ain't a draft pick. Quinnen Williams ain't a draft pick. Kenny Clark ain't a draft pick. These are going to be starters, big-time players for you. That's not draft picks, man. So he's doing it through the draft. He's doing it through free agency, trades, everything. So, man, you got to give him his credit, Skip. They're going to come out, and I guarantee you they win more than 6 games, like you say.
Okay. I loved him going into last year because I thought it was an easy, by NFL standards, schedule, and they crapped out and went 7-9-1. And I'm not sold on the head coach. And Kinsey, to your point, obviously, I just want the best defensive players available at 12 and 20. Whoever falls that I like the most, I would want them to take that defensive player.
Yep. Yeah, both picks.
I mean, I would argue building your defense back is just as important as getting a quarterback. So if Minnesota go 9-8 and get you win the division and be a Super Bowl favorite, I think Dallas can too with restructuring that defense.
Yeah, and another big factor in this is Christian Parker, who's their new defensive coordinator. I guarantee you he had some input. Maybe not every guy was a guy that he thought could play in their scheme. Now, I know he said he's going to adapt the scheme to the players he has, but he wants to build guys that he knows, or get guys that are, more so positionless players they can, build their defense around. So yeah, I think that played a factor as well. Instead of going out and making a splash move for one guy, he had to get other pieces around, on that defense.
Okay, so Cody, how much should I trust a 34-year-old new defensive coordinator who's never called a defense in his life? I like his pedigree. I like where he's been, but man, that is scary to me.
But what's important with that, Skip, and this goes for both sides of the ball with the coordinator. The first thing that you have to do when you have never called plays before, when you don't have film for a coaching staff to watch or an owner to watch, you've got to crush these interviews. You got to have a great plan in place to get that team to buy into you. Also, another thing that's important is that even though he's never called plays, he's also learned under Vance Joseph and Big Fangio, two of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. He can pick and pull from that scheme to create his own. I loved his press conference. He said, we're going to run a 3-4, but there's also going to be some 4-3 tendencies. We're going to run a 4-2-5 when we get to our nickel defense. We're going to adapt our defense to our players, and we're going to get guys in here that I know can fit in this scheme and go make plays. So everything that he's been saying, everything that he's done in his career, I think is important. Also with the Eagles, look at that secondary. He was their DB coach. He developed Quinyon Mitchell. He developed Cooper DeJean. He's developed the guys in the secondary. Now, I know those were guys that were talented players, and his job a lot easier, but at the same time, there's a big jump from college to the NFL. You got to have a coach that can help you develop. I think Christian Parker's absolutely earned the right to be, or given a shot in Dallas to be a high-end defensive coordinator.
Trust it or don't trust it, Skip. It's happened before. Like B. Flo was the safeties coach when I was in New England. He wasn't calling no plays.
Yep.
He got his opportunity and he made the best out of it. He's one of the best in the game now. So, man, Raheem Morris was a cornerbacks coach when I was in Tampa.
Yeah.
Him now, he's considered one of the best D coordinators out there. So guys got to get their shot, man. They get their opportunity and they make the best of it. So it's no guarantee, but it's no guarantee that it's going to fail either.
So what's funny is that I've always been accused of being a delusional Cowboy fan, and now you three have all turned into delusional Cowboy fans. You have. Well, it's true. I'm telling you.
I don't think they have. I remember Lee being exactly accurate on the Cowboys last year.
Man, I'm just a realist.
I think just by what's going on is realistic. I think in the past, Skip, you may have seen some of these big splashes, and that was delusional to think that they was going to come in and turn everything around at once. But,
well, I love Dak.
Point earlier.
What's that?
Jerry probably is trying to fool people like, yeah, we're going to come in and spend the bag and watch everybody else spend it and let me sit back. Poker face.
Yeah.
All right, Skip, though, there's a
there's
a little hope for the Cowboys. We got B's from the boys. So, Skip, maybe there's a little hope. Maybe you guys are going to make the playoffs this year. But I do want to look at the NFC East, okay? I want to take a look at your division because they were making some moves. The Eagles had a Super Bowl champion corner, Rick Wollen. The Commanders stirred up their edge room by giving Oweh a $100 million 4-year deal. So they also signed corner Amik Robinson. And then the Giants added some big names like tight end Isaiah Likely and linebacker Tremaine Edmonds. Yep. So everybody else in your division